everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or evening, whenever it is you're catching us, and welcome back to Find Your Whys. I'm Yvonne. I am a financial life coach.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Indira. I'm your leadership coach.
And you notice that we have somebody else with us today. He is our special guest. Yes, Ray Amanat. Did I get that right? Manamana.
You got it right. Yes.
All right. He's joining us from Florida. He is a speaker, a author, and a whole bunch of everything that we're going to get into in more detail. His story starts from most of us when we were young kids, but that's when his purpose actually started that he grew into, where a lot of us have changed along the way of what we wanted to do. His started then against his own will.
Yes, it did.
So, Ray, why don't you go ahead and tell us what started? I mean, when we first started talking to you and getting ready for this, you were talking about how as a young kid, you were really bullied. And that's kind of how your story started.
Yeah, so and welcome everybody to the show. Thank you for inviting me. My parents were immigrants from Iran. At the time I was in school, that was when the Iran hostage crisis was happening. So I'm in a school that was predominantly 95% all white. I was not the popular kid. I was not an athlete. So I had that target on my back.
Yeah.
Where, my parents, they got divorced when I was around 4 years old, and my mom had gotten custody. So there's two sides to this coin. One, the bullying that happened in school, pretty much from elementary school through early high school. And then two, whenever I would get home, the bullying and emotional, it was more emotional, verbal, and some physical at home from my mom. So when I do talks or presentations, there are kids that are out there that are going through some form of child abuse that might not have a voice and might not know what to do or where to go to get the kind of help that they need. So that's why I kind of include that in my story, because I want to reach people that are abused at home, not just bullied at school.
Okay, I really like that.
I was going to mention that it's so good that you bring in this point across, because in reality, bully can happen in every aspect of our life, in every area. And like you mentioned, at home, at work, and as a child in a school. So it's very important that you are able to emphasize that. Does it make a difference when you're growing up being bullied in both scenarios?
So, one of the things that I always say, bullies don't go away, they grow up.
Very true.
So they grow up to be the spouse abuser. They grow up to be that coworker at work that just gets on your nerves and pushes your buttons every day. Or it could be your boss. Or they grow up to be some type of a criminal. So did they get the help that they needed? A lot of times, kids that are the bullies usually get suspended or expelled from school. But are they doing anything to help them change that behavior?
Right.
And if they're not, that's where there's the flaw in the school systems or the flaw in our communities as far as getting them the right kind of help that they need. Well, when you're dealing with victims, there's all kinds of resources out there to help victims. But there's not a lot of resources to help bullies correct their behavior. And a lot of times, bullies at school come from parents that are bullies at home.
Yes.
Where that parent is going to say, don't tell me how to raise my child. This is how I was raised, and I can raise my child anyway. Look at how I turned out.
Right.
Let's look at how you turned out. So,
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of discussion that needs to come out into the open, and that's why we're doing this show.
Yeah.
So do you think that, like, when we were growing up, because I'm only guessing that we're probably similar in age, the bullying back then there's a lot of name calling, taunting, physical, but do you think it's changed much now? Because now we've got so much like cyberbullying and things like that. How does that change for a kid who's facing this that can't seem to escape it, even if it's not happening at home, from their parents, if they're getting...
It's happening 24/7.
Yeah. How do they deal with that?
So, like you said, when we were growing up, the worst thing that would happen in the bathroom would be somebody getting caught smoking a cigarette. Now, kids are dealing drugs, doing drugs, and sexually abusing other kids in the bathroom.
Crazy.
So, that shows how much has changed as far as bullying is concerned. Bullying is now 24/7, where, yes, you're dealing with text messaging, you're dealing with cyberbullying, and dealing with that's why it's very important for parents to have a healthy communication with their child, not have the computer in the bedroom, not have their cell phones charging in the bedroom, where their cell phones are going off at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and the child is always, oh, what are they saying about me now? They're looking at their cell phone, and what are they doing? What are they saying? And they're not getting the sleep or rest that they need to be productive in school. So, if the parents would take a child's cell phone and let it charge in their room, they can kind of get an idea of who's reaching out to their child, what's going on, what's happening with that child. If the child's computer or laptop were in the living room or dining area, the parents can kind of check in to see who the child is talking to. And this is also talking about child predators that may be grooming your child, that might be convincing your child that your parents are bad and I can offer you a better life. So parents need to be really involved as far as knowing who their child is talking to and what people are saying about their child on social media. That's all evidence. Don't delete it. Keep it, and always inform law enforcement and let the schools know such and such is saying this about my child. This is how they're making my child feel. They're hurting themselves. They want to commit suicide or they want to do something, and we need to get this stopped. There was that one scenario where there was a mom that pretended to be a child and got online and just totally berated this kid. And this kid thought it was another child his age saying all this stuff. He ended up committing suicide.
Oh, that's awful.
Wow.
So parents, wake up, pay attention to who your kids are socializing with or talking to on social media.
That comment is very important because we wanted to also rely on the school system, that they put controls on protecting your child, but it's our responsibility as a parent to be able to stand up for them and supporting and gifting the tools that they need to be able to address when they're being bullied.
So you bring up a good point. And, a lot of back then, the parents would say, what did your teacher say? And they would side with the teacher. Now, the child is saying, this teacher hates my guts. They have it out for me. And they're siding with their child than they are with the child. So, have you ever heard of this? And I know you guys both work with a lot of people, where a child pits one parent against another?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, well, a child is pitting their parent against the teacher, who is an educated person, has years of training. Who are you going to listen to, the teacher or the child?
Right. Well, and that was something that I was going to bring up, is that there's a trend, I guess, and I'm older, so I don't see it firsthand in my life, but of what they're calling gentle parenting or something like that, where kids are kind of, in my opinion, kind of running amok. And anybody who's listening that's a gentle parent is going to hate me for saying that, but I'm a Gen Xer, so I was raised hardcore. But when it comes to then parents wanting to take their child's cell phone or something like that, how is a parent going to stand up when a kid is going to be like, well, that's my private, you can't look at that? What do you do? Just be like, as a parent, I know what I would do. Yeah. But what do you suggest for parents who aren't going to be like, too bad, I pay the bill, give me the phone? How is a parent who is used to gentle parenting going to be able to handle that situation confidently?
So a lot of schools, especially elementary schools, They have a point system or a star chart that's based on positive behavior, not punishing behavior. So if the child does what they're supposed to do and they have a good, healthy communication, and the child is willing to say, this is who I'm talking to and everything, they reward the child by, you can have your cell phone. But if the child does something wrong, that cell phone gets taken away, and they have to prove themselves through positive behavior, cleaning up the room, doing their chores, doing their homework, everything, to earn that back. That's a privilege. That's not something that I'm supposed to have. Having a cell phone is having an iPad is a privilege, and you have to earn it.
Yes.
So it's not I pay the bills, and if you want this, then go move out and get your own apartment and pay the bills. That's not realistic.
Right.
This is something that we've given you. It's worth a lot of money, but it's a privilege to have, and you have to earn it.
Yeah.
And
I like
that's
that
through positive behavior, using a star system, a point system, just like schools do, to correct the behavior so that you're able to have a healthy relationship, an open relationship with your child. But you don't want to be, there's a lot of people that you're talking about. It's the parent wants to be friends with their child.
Yes.
No, parent is here, child is down here. Friends mean they're equals, and that's where the child starts manipulating the parent and demanding, we're equals, I get to have this. Parent loses power, parent loses control.
I understand that also kids do that, some sort of manipulation. I remember once a phrase that also stuck to me when I was raising my kids, and that person was talking to say, you as a kid, you need to respect me. You may love me or not, but respect me. That is something that when you as a parent, you demand respect and you provide respect in the house, it's easier to put those rules in place. And also you like you said, make them understand that what they're receiving is a privilege.
You expect to get respect, but you also have to demonstrate how to give respect.
Yeah, correct.
And that's something a lot of parents don't do.
Yes.
Agreed.
Agree. I have one question. For example, it can be the case that your kid is being bullied, but how as a parent you manage when your kid is the one that is bullying other kids? What are strategies as a parent you can put in place to help your kid overcome this situation and really behave in a more in a better way?
Civilized manner.
So if you have a child that has emotional or behavioral issues, that's where one-on-one coaching or counseling is going to come in. There's a lot, like I got into martial arts. Martial arts saved my life. It also helped me with my self-esteem and my confidence. So if your child is aggressive in behavior, there's a gap in knowing how to communicate. Maybe they don't know how to express themselves verbally, so they get frustrated, they get mad, and then become aggressive or violent. So it's helping that child with better verbal and communication skills so that they can express themselves in a more proper manner rather than get frustrated. You know, for me, somebody that has to use cuss words all the time doesn't have a large language vocabulary. If you gave them the tools and the skills to be able to verbally express themselves, they would use less cuss words.
Makes sense.
So it's giving them the language to and teaching them, showing them. And I do this through a lot of role playing. If somebody takes your book bag, if somebody takes your makes fun of you, makes fun of your mom, if you lose control and push back, hit back, fight back, or argue back, and you're perceived as now the bully, that's where we have to role play to come up with better answers to problem solve what's going on. So it's teaching critical thinking and problem solving on how to manage conflict. So it's anger management and conflict resolution, so that they can be better communicators. Most kids that, let's say they have autism, or they're high functioning Asperger's, but their social skills are not where they want to be, but they're also verbal skills, the ability to be able to communicate with others. They take everything a little bit more literally. So with them being as literal, they can easily lose their temper and have a temper tantrum and lose control and be aggressive towards someone. So it's role playing. What does this person really mean when they're saying this or doing this? And what's a better way of handling that? And you might have to role play with your child numerous times until that becomes the response or reply that is better warranted for that situation.
Until it's kind of like ingrained in them and it's an
Absolutely.
automatic response. So you were saying that martial arts saved your life as a kid that was bullied and stuff. Tell me a little bit about that, because I'm interested in hearing how that ended up for you.
So, when, like I said, my parents were divorced, and at the age of 15, I decided to move in with my dad. And when I moved in with him, I wanted to get into martial arts because I wanted to put my personal safety into my own hands. I didn't want to rely on a teacher, a school counselor, a resource officer, or anything. They might not always be there. There's always a response time. So I wanted to get into martial arts to put my own safety in my own hands. Now, my instructors, they were not Miyagi, they were the Cobra Kai. So I went from being a really, really shy person to a really aggressive person. I became the bully. But starting out, I went from a white belt to a yellow belt. So those are beginning ranks.
Yeah.
And to most people, oh, well, a yellow belt, that's no big deal. You're still a beginner. But to me, somebody that had very low self-esteem in myself, I'm like, wait a second, I passed? I'm good at this? And then the first time I broke a board, or the first time I won a trophy at a tournament, those were all building blocks for me, moving up the ranks from yellow to orange to green to blue, all the way up to my black belt. That gave me the self-esteem and the confidence that I never had to be able to stand up to people and not worry about what's going to happen to me. It was more what's going to happen to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. It saved my life because it changed the way I looked at things and approached things, and I did it in a more aggressive manner, of which later on I learned that was also wrong. So I had to learn to be assertive and aggressive only if it was necessary.
So now you learned that it was wrong. So there's a story there. I'd love to hear that story. I'd love for our listeners to hear that story.
So once I got my black belt, I took over the school. And I was teaching my students the same way I was taught. So I was teaching people to be bullies, to be aggressive. And I had a parent approach me, and they said, my child got suspended from school. And I'm like, for what? And they're like, for doing what you told him to do. So he got suspended because of something that I taught him. And I've been on both sides of the coin. I've been the victim and I've been the bully. I had to take a hard look at what type of an educator or mentor I want to be for my students. And I had to look at other teaching styles from other schools. And I started working with counselors and other people and looked at their teaching styles and found out, okay, when we're born, you're born passive or aggressive. What's that middle ground? And that's assertive, but assertive is a learned behavior. It's not something that you're born with. So I focused on learning what are the steps I need to do or take to student how to be assertive and then only aggressive when their life is in danger. Otherwise, stand up for yourself without looking like a shy person or looking like the bully yourself. I want you to stand up, and that's where the phrase hero comes in. I want you to be your own hero or be a hero for someone else. You can stand up for other people as well.
I really love your story because it shows that at the moment that you decided to take control of the situation, because even though bully is based on the environment that you receive, you decided to take control in your own hands.
Yeah.
And but that took you way further, more than probably you wanted, and then you have to readjust it. So I really love that because it really teaches that even though we're going to apply different things, we have to be, like you mentioned, assertive to make sure that the things that you applied really wanted to help you to become the person that you wanted to do, the person you wanted to be, and not going to the other side of the coin.
Right.
100%.
So now, are you still running the school, or you've not? Because I know that you're an author now. You're also a speaker. So tell me about some of those other things that you're doing.
So my new company is called Self Defense Pros. It's a consulting and training company. I am an author of my first book was Bullied, Victim, or Hero, which is my autobiography of how I went from being the victim to becoming the bully, and now I teach people how to stand up for themselves and be heroes. We all have choices.
Yes.
I was talking to somebody. You're not born a winner. You're not born a loser. You're born a chooser. So you choose your path on what you want to be. So I teach people how to choose being that hero to stand up for themselves and others. I've written 3 children's books. I've got 2 more in the works, and those are geared towards sensitive topics. 1 is dealing with bullying, 2 is dealing with strangers, and 3 is if you have a child that's oppositional, doesn't really follow directions, it's teaching them through a star chart how to follow directions. The character's name is Mushy the Martian, and he goes on adventures and he comes across these problems, and he has to learn how to handle them with his friends. He's got 3 friends, Muggsy the Mad Dog, Gutsy the Good Dog, and Shasta the Shy Dog. So it gives 3 different responses to how to handle a situation. And at the end of the book, the reader has to decide, well, who would I listen to solve this problem? What's the best outcome for this problem?
And those can be found like on Amazon, or where all can they be found? We'll also put all that information for anybody listening. We're going to put all this information in the bio so that you'll be able to find these books and his and Ray's contact information as well.
All the .com bookstores, so Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million, all that, you can find all my books there.
Okay.
The consulting part, I go to martial arts schools and I try to help them with the assertive side of training. They have the aggressive side. They have how not to be a path. But legally speaking, if they only teach the aggressive side, then they can be legally in trouble if a student goes to prison or jail. Well, I'm doing what my karate instructor told me to. But if they make the assertive side of training part of their curriculum, then it's kind of due diligence in dealing with liability topics where we taught them how to be assertive, and as a last resort, be aggressive when you need to be. So I try to do a lot of consulting with martial arts schools on that aspect. And then if they don't have a program, I've got a lot of curriculum that I could help add to the program to help with student retention or new memberships, enrollment, or even staff development. So that's pretty much what I've got going on top of doing the lecture circuit for companies, corporations on personal safety at the workplace, at home, and abroad.
So now, with all of this, is this stuff that you only can do in person, or do you have anything online that people can watch or consult? I don't know how easy that would be to do online, or do you travel any place outside of Florida?
I'm currently I want to do a 50-state tour. So
Nice.
I've got 14 states. I've got a whole bunch more to go. So But I want to do a 50-state tour. I prefer in person. I mean, I do have videos on my YouTube page that people can follow as far as learning self-defense and things like that. But if you do something wrong, that video is not going to correct it. With me in person,
Right.
I'll be able to say, you're doing this wrong. This person is this size and you're this size. You're smaller in stature or strength. So you're going to have to adapt what you do to get the escape that you need to be able to get yourself to safety. So yeah, videos are great. Everyone tells me I should do some type of a webinar type program where people are
Yeah.
learning. And I can, but I'd still rather do it in person.
Good. Wanted to before, because one of the things that I would like to discuss is about in adulthood. How can you recognize? Because you mentioned that you're also in the part of self-defense and teaching maybe adult people. How can you recognize being bullied as an adult, maybe in your workplace or online or in adulthood?
So you know what narcissistic behavior is, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's how do you identify a safe versus an unsafe person? And a lot of that is based on verbal language, and a lot of that is based on body language. I'll ask you the question, what's the difference between stereotyping and profiling? With stereotyping, you're kind of lumping people into one category, where, like, I'm Middle Eastern, so all Middle Easterns must be terrorists, or all black people are thugs, all white people are racist. That's stereotyping.
Yep.
Profiling, and this is where the media kind of screws it up. Profiling is the study of behavior. You're driving down the highway and you see somebody swerving all over the place. Now, they could be swerving because they're drunk, they're sleepy, they're having a stroke or a heart attack, there's a bee in the car, they're yelling at their kids, or they spilled coffee on themselves. But you're not going to drive up right next to them to find out why they're swerving. You're going to maintain a safe distance
Yes.
from them.
Yes.
Because you're looking at the behavior. It doesn't matter what race or color or religion or gender they are. You're looking at the behavior. You're at a party. Everyone's having a good time, but you have this one guy that's like, "Ugh." You're not going to go up to him and say, hey, buddy, what's wrong? Turn that frown upside down. You're going to keep your distance. You're going to keep your distance because you don't know if that person is safe or not.
Yeah.
So it's profiling. Now, when the media uses the word, like for law enforcement, they were racial profiling.
Yes.
No, they just turn it into a stereotype.
Gotcha.
TSA, law enforcement, they're trained to profile. Civilians, I profile everybody I meet because I have to look at their behavior, I have to look at their body language, and assess, that's threat assessment, if this is a safe or unsafe person for me to be around. And if I don't feel comfortable, you have to trust your gut instincts.
Yes.
If your butterflies are telling you, I don't feel comfortable with this person, listen to them. And give yourself a verbal out. Hey, I'm late for an appointment, or my child just called me. They're sick. I got to go pick them up. Give yourself an out. So you're not offending the person. You're not going to say, hey, you're freaking me out, but you're giving yourself an out to get away from them, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It does. And I see now, of course, nowadays in the political climate that it is, there's so much bullying that goes on that people feel incredibly brave, especially online. So that's a whole other arena that we could touch if you wanted to. But I mean, in those situations, for me, it's just best to not ever engage. It's, you have the safety of the internet between you, but also it's the safety of anonymity for the other person on the other side to get. Sometimes I have seen some videos that are beyond scary. And it's like, I hope somebody checks on this person because they're obviously not mentally well.
So this is where the phrase trust but verify. You want to fact check everything and look at all sides of whatever is being talked about. There's rumors. It's kind of like I say something to you, and then you say it to her, and then by the time the message comes back to me, that whatever I said is 100% different than when it started.
Exactly.
You want to fact check everything, especially with AI that's out there. Everyone,
Yes.
it's so realistic that they can make a video of me that's AI and make me say whatever they want me to say.
It's terrifying.
And now I'm a horrible person, but it wasn't me. It was somebody making me look bad. So trust but verify. The other thing that I always bring up with my presentations, finish this phrase: knowledge is.
Well, you asked me that before, and I said power, but I was wrong.
Power. Yeah.
Knowledge is power, and that's what a lot of people say. A lot of speakers say that. But I kind of want to add a little twist to that. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. I can give you knowledge, but if you don't know how to apply it, you have no power.
Exactly. And I love that.
Yeah.
Makes all the difference in how you think.
So you go to a conference, you learn something, you come back, and your boss or whatever says, whatever you learned at that conference, I need you to do it now, under pressure. I need you to do it. And you're like, most people only retain maybe 20% of what they learn at a conference. And then you put that adrenaline stress of, I need it now, that makes it even harder. So it's taking the time, and it boils down to training, and it boils down to role playing, it boils down to doing it over and over again, so that it becomes a reflex and a reaction, not a thought process, so that you make the right choices without hesitating. But if you don't practice it and you don't know how to apply that knowledge, you don't have any power.
Yeah.
So much thinking.
Yeah. You give us thinking. For example, I have 2 teenagers and also work and have a work. So there's cases that you can experience situation with them, and also in your real life of having a boss, for example, that he's very aggressive, not with one particular person, but with a group of people. And sometimes it's generate conflicts for people, how to manage those situations. And some people, what they do, they just resign and then find another job, but the situation continues with the people there.
So do you have spidey senses? And this is what I mean, spidey senses. I'm going to give you a story real quick.
Okay.
There's a lady. She was in a domestic situation, domestic violence situation. She didn't tell her family anything about it. She didn't tell her neighbors. She didn't tell her co-workers that she has a restraining order against her boyfriend or husband or anything. So nobody knew. And typically people don't say anything because they're embarrassed. It's nobody's business what's going on in my personal life. Mm-hmm. She goes to work. She's in a separate office. Her boyfriend, husband, whoever, comes in and says, hey, it's her birthday and I wanted to surprise her for her birthday. Can you tell me where she is? So the coworkers are like, oh, I wish my boyfriend or whatever would do that. So they go, she's in that room back there. Go ahead, go on back there. It turns into a murder-suicide. And this is a true story that happened in St. Louis back when I lived back there. Now let's backtrack it. How can you have prevented a murder-suicide? If she would have shared the information with family, with friends, with coworkers, this is what he looks like, this is what he drives, this is the license plate number, I have a restraining order against him. If he comes anywhere near me, please alert me. I need to get out of the building as fast as I can. Mm-hmm. If she would have let her coworkers know, this is spidey senses, you have eyes in the back of your head, and that's everyone else around you. He comes in and says, hey, I want to surprise her for her birthday. I go, well, why don't you go wait in the break room and we'll bring her to you and you could surprise her in the break room. So he goes to the break room. They warn her. She gets out of the building. They call law enforcement. Law enforcement comes in and meet him in the break room and arrest him for breach of restraining order.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, Spidey senses, it's about, yeah, I get it. You're embarrassed. But if you're dealing with somebody that has a mental health issue, if you're dealing with somebody that's going to say, if we break up, I'm going to commit suicide, I'm never, or if I can't have you, no one can have you. And there's people that will say that or do that. You need to have eyes in the back of your head, and you need to kind of let everyone know what's going on in your life so they can be your support team. If they see, you hear the phrase, if you see something, say something. Well, if they see something, they need to say something to you on top of law enforcement so that you stay safe.
No, I agree. I actually dated somebody like that. It never got to the point of restraining order, but it was after my divorce. And I did. It was embarrassing, but I did let everybody at work know, especially because it was a stalking situation. It was bad after we broke up. And luckily I worked in a very secure building, so we couldn't just walk in. But I get it. It is hard to talk about. It's embarrassing to talk about, but it probably more than once saved me because he was around a lot more than I realized. So it's very, very important.
And I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Thank you. Me too. It was a big, big, big learning lesson. But it is very, very important to let other people know when you are in situations like that. And just like with, going all the way back to kids, if we can teach our kids, it's really hard when it's the one that it's happening at home. But if we can teach our kids that, being bullied by anybody, let somebody know. Let mom and dad know. Let mom and dad take care of it, whether it's another child, another adult, grooming situations. We need to get back to conversations and communication and relationships. And I think that especially with social media and internet and everything else, we've lost a lot of that.
Yeah.
So you guys are both coaches.
Correct.
Yes.
And I'm going to use a basketball analogy for the coach.
I'm not that kind of coach, but okay.
No, I know. But you'll get what I mean when I say this. Okay?
I was at a basketball game today because my youngest one played basketball. So
well, I'm saying this because you do have teenagers. So this is because you have teenagers. So which team is going to be better? The team where the coach says, okay, just go practice some free throws and then you're done. Or the coach says, do it again. Do it again. Run laps. Now
Absolutely.
do it again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Work on your passing drills. Now do it again.
Yeah.
A piano teacher isn't going to say, oh, just practice the song one time.
Right.
Do it again. Do it again. You as a coach trying to help the people that you're helping, well, we're going to have you do it again.
Yes.
Until you're able to do it on your own and you don't need me as a crutch, you don't need me to hold your hand, you need to do it again. So as a coach or as a parent, because a parent is a coach.
That's right.
They're there, if the child's behavior needs to be corrected, then they need to do it again and again until the parent gets the appropriate behavior outcome that they're looking for. We have expectations of behavior from our kids. Schools have expectations of child's behavior. And if they don't meet those expectations, there's the consequences. But it's the parent that gives in and says, okay, well, maybe you'll be better next time. I'll let you have your ice cream or let you do, whatever. The parent that gives in, that child will never correct that behavior, and they're just going to walk over you.
Yeah.
And when they walk over you, as they become adults, they're also going to walk over whoever they're in a relationship with. So what type of partner are they going to be in the future?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Everything that you're saying, it's so important because it's not just as a parent or as a coach, it's not just being present, but also push them and also push yourself. So it's calling us as a parent, so we have to dig in ourselves, in our emotions, how we are managing certain situations, because we are going to transmit the same message to our kids. So it's so important to come and as it reflects, I'm investing in my kids enough time to build that communication with them, that they feel confident when they're having an issue to come and talk to me, are building that self-esteem on them and that confidence, so they're able to also stand up for themselves, or if they cannot, so they can look for support. So it's as a parent and as an adult, and that affects every area of our lives,
It does.
because in our relationships, in our marriages, in as a co-worker, we have to also stand that for sometimes for other people, and show them and guide them so they can also continue growing and really start working on that situation of that bully, that sometimes it's hard to overcome.
That's the stress that society and family members put on us, where it's the expectations. I come from a Middle Eastern family where they always say, you need to have the best education, or the best cars, or the best clothing, or the best job, or go to the best university. You have to be the best parent. You don't have to be the best mother or father in the world. You just have to be the best when it matters.
Yeah.
When your child is struggling and you're there for them. You don't have to be the best in the world. You just have to be your best when it matters. And if you don't know how to be your best, then that's where they come to you guys as coaches to learn how to be their best, so they can be better providers. As a parent, you want to ask yourself, have I done everything I possibly can for my child to be confident in them going away to college? Have they learned everything? Can they handle themselves? Have I put them through self-defense classes? Have I put them through, what happens if the car breaks down? Do they know how to change a tire?
Right.
Do they know how to do different things like that? Have I, as a parent, done everything I possibly can for my child to be able to say, I'm confident they can go travel the world and I know they'll be safe? And if you haven't done that as a parent, well, when are you going to get started?
Right. And we need to, and I think part of our job as coaches, or just as adults in general, is to really spread the word that there is shame in asking for help. There is actually a lot to be said for yourself when you go to do self-improvement. That's what a huge part of this podcast of Find Your Whys is to find your whys, to continue to improve yourself, personal growth, get better. There's no shame in that. Nobody ever starts out at the top, the best of everything. It is about growth all the time. You're never too old. You don't ever know enough, too much. You can continue to grow on that. Talking about raising your kids to know that they're okay. I feel good that my daughter went to college and traveled the world. And when she came back, she told me, she said, Mom, you failed me as a parent. And I said, why? She goes, because the one thing you never told me how to do is to fold a fitted sheet. I thought, I won.
That's perfect. That was the one thing you did a pretty good job.
Right. I had to laugh at that. So that was, pretty good. So I can count all the failures as a parent on all of my hands, toes, and everything else. So there's plenty of failure to go around, but I thought that she put it in perspective pretty well.
Yes.
That's very
great.
funny.
But about that, what can we do to prevent, for example, as a kid, as a teacher, as a parent, to prevent or bullying in for example, for our kids or being bullied?
Like, what should we look out for?
So you got to understand something. A school is like a little city. A city has a mayor, a board of aldermen, a sheriff, police officers, and then you have all the residents. In a school, the principal is like the mayor. Then you have the school board of education is like your board of aldermen. The teachers actually have to play different roles. They're teachers, but they're also law enforcement. Police officers can't be everywhere at once. Right. Somebody calls 911 and police show up. So in schools, teachers can't see everything. So that's where the students, and this is where We have to get the students to understand the difference between reporting something and being a tattletale or a snitch. If you push me and I go, teacher, she's pushing me, okay, I'm being a snitch. If you push me and I use a loud voice, I stand my ground, stop pushing me, quit messing with me, leave me alone, and I say it loud enough to attract the attention so I have witnesses, other students can see I'm not the aggressor, I'm the one being pushed. When a teacher comes over and says, what's the problem? I'm like, they're pushing me. If they deny it, I have witnesses that can say, no, they're the ones that started it. Now, let's say, Yvonne, you're walking to your neighbor's house. Your neighbor's house is on fire. Your neighbor's going, help me, help me. Are you going to run back to your house and get some graham crackers, chocolate, and marshmallows to make s'mores? Or are you going to call 911?
Call 911.
So you call 911, the police come, the fire department come, ambulance come, they save your neighbor's life. Now you have the news media come, cameras, microphone, everything. Are they going to come up and say, Yvonne, are you the snitch that called 911?
No.
Or are they going to say, are you the hero that called 911?
Yeah.
When we get the students in the schools to understand if they see bullying behavior, to report it to the teachers, the school counselors, or the principal, they're not being a snitch. They're being a hero. They're reporting something. In neighborhoods, we have a neighborhood watch. Everyone's there to watch if somebody breaks into your house. They're going to call 911 and take care of the problem. Well, the kids need to be taught to have a neighborhood watch in the school where they report bad behavior. And when all the kids do this, they're sending a message to the child that's behaving badly, that's being the bully, that no, we will not tolerate this. We don't want you acting like this. Knock it off. And hopefully that would curb the behavior, and then the teachers can identify who's being bad and get them the proper help, the counseling that they need to be better citizens in the school and outside of school.
I love that. Just shows the importance of community and how you have to work together. And that includes even the parents who aren't at that school all the time. It goes back to the communication and the relationships that you have in such a vast scale.
When I do PTA presentations, the only parents that really show up are the moms and dads that their kids are straight A students, honor roll, gifted students, whatever. The ones that are single family parents usually have 2 jobs and their kids are struggling in school. You don't see them show up because they don't have the time to show up. There has to be other ways to reach those parents. Like if they were to do a webinar, record it, and then replay it for the parents that were not able to attend the PTA meeting. Now you're reaching more people and getting them all on board with the same message so that there's an understanding, and then they can address the problems working together rather than working against each other.
I think that's brilliant. I wonder how many schools do that. I mean, that would definitely something to look into even in our own personal communities.
Not a lot unless I go and talk to them and bring it to their attention. That's why I try to go to as many schools as I can. But hey.
But now we're aware of it, and anybody that's listening to this program is aware of it. So we can all maybe not do the whole program as you, but it could be something that we can bring to the attention of our school board or our individual schools and say, hey, is this something that you could do? Yeah. So
100%, yes.
Love it. Again,
you're never going to eradicate bullying.
No.
But my goal has always been to reduce the number of office referrals that happen at a school. When you reduce the number of office referrals, that's reducing the number of in-school suspensions, out-of-school suspensions, and expulsions. It's also reducing the number of potential active shooter situations in schools.
Yeah, that's unfortunately something that has to be thought about.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have to mention that. But there's so many good nuggets that we have provided, and yeah.
I could go on forever. This is so interesting. We might actually have to have you back at some point and start like focusing on each individual aspect of that what you do, because this is fascinating.
You took my thought.
I'd love to be back anytime you'd like.
You took my thought, because since we were trying to take it just a little bit to pinpoint each of the aspects, but there's so many good things that we can go if we niche down. For example, talking about the youth, talking about the adults, because you are in the part of self-defense as well, in our work environment, in our personal life. I think will be fantastic to have you back.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I'd love it. Thank you.
So, and now that you're mentioning about the role that we have all as a community, any additional thought or final thought that you think that could be really important that we could take in consideration?
I'll tell you what, grandparents, if they can get involved, if they're not doing anything, they can be a school monitor during lunch and PE for elementary schools, because a lot of times, of course, there'll be a background check on everybody because you're dealing with children, but a lot of times kids won't want to do something in front of grandma or grandpa that would be bad, because so getting the grandparents, if they're bored, they're retired, they want something to do, they can work with the schools and be a hall monitor,
recess monitor,
recess, and during PE or during their lunchtime, to where they get to work with the kids and be around them, but also make sure they're the extra eyes and ears for the school, for the teachers, to make sure nothing bad ever happens within that school.
Love that idea.
I love that.
So
as a grandparent, I love that idea.
There's different ways that people can find a role that would be good for them to fit in. They can run for being on school board or council.
Yeah.
It's getting involved in the community to make sure that community stays safe. You're there because in your mind it was a safe place for you to raise your family. Let's keep it safe, as opposed to I can't wait to move out of this community because of the crime or because of whatever else. Yeah. It's having a community that is going to report bad behavior, or having a community that's going to be able to profile and identify bad behavior and let the appropriate people know so that they don't get away with anything. If I am a shoplifter and I get away with shoplifting, would I do it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll keep doing it again, and then I'll get braver and braver and braver until finally I get caught.
Yep.
But if I'm a shoplifter and you see me doing it and you get me caught the first time around, I'm not going to want to do it again because you reported it. I got caught. I'm embarrassed. And, okay, that's not something I should be doing. So it's important that the community gets involved in profiling bad behavior.
I like that. When you're talking about grandparents, one thing, if you are of an age where you're thinking to yourself, I miss the simple times, I miss it when I was a kid, maybe that is a good cue for you to say it is time to get involved to bring back those times. Not that everything was perfect back in the day, but I remember, everybody's always talking about, you couldn't get away with anything in my town because Miss So-and-so would tell this person and pretty soon it's back home. We don't have that anymore. Everybody stays out of each other's business. Maybe we need to get back in each other's business just a little bit, start holding each other accountable, and it would make a world of difference.
100%, yes.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. You're calling us to be a community, a close community again, and really make something that matters. Yeah. Love it.
Well, as we're coming up on an hour, we probably should wrap this one up. And like we said, we're going to go ahead and bring you back. This has been fascinating. I know there's so many more points that we could talk about. And as always, for anybody watching, if you wanted to go ahead and like, subscribe, share, tell everybody else that you think could benefit from this episode to do so we can use that algorithm and get more information out there to anybody, please do so. Come back again and watch us every time we're here.
Yes.
Can I do a shameless plug?
Please do.
Because I just have a new website that just got made. If you go to rayamanat.com.
Okay, we'll put that in the bio too.
Yeah, rayamanat.com, and you'll be able to pretty much get an idea of all the different hats that I wear.
It's fascinating.
With
Can't
what
wait to
I do.
share them more.
What I like the most is that you're working not just with adults, you're working with youth, because that's the way that we can really change our future.
That's right. That's where it
It's
starts.
working with the one that are coming. So I love that.
Me too.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Ray, so much for being here.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
been a
Thank you
huge
for
pleasure.
having me. Thank you for having me.
Yes. I hope you have you back. See you. Bye-bye,
right.
everybody.
We'll see you guys.
Bye, everybody.